As much as we love Genshin's upcoming characters, there's always going to be some kind of a catch, and this video will investigate the whole situation. But first, a quick word from today's sponsor. This video is sponsored by Ragnarok Origin. The original MMO everyone loves is coming to mobile, so you can finally relive your nostalgic memories. And it looks like you'll get to re-experience the classical storyline of the Seven Warriors, venture deep into many dungeons and areas, but best of all, the game features updated high-definition graphics for the already cute art style Ragnarok is known for. Also, just like before, you can participate in tons of different activities, build your class, and hire the best mercenaries to help you out on your epic daily adventures. This honestly brings back fond memories, and I can't wait to dive into the world of Ragnarok again. Luckily, the game is currently accepting new pre-registrations, so don't miss out on the chance to be the first one to get notified about Ragnarok Origin, because the grand launch is coming very soon, so make sure to use the link in the description or pinned comment to pre-register today. Let's first talk about the biggest upcoming change in Genshin. The two newest Geo characters that have been announced means a ton of things for team building opportunities, and one crucial aspect that needs to be considered is how viable will Geo element be once Itto and Gorou show up in the game. Because as much as some of us like to point out the flaws of Electro element, at least at the end of the day we've still got characters like Albedo, Official, and now even Raiden Shogun showing up in a lot of team comps, not just inside the Spiral Abyss but gameplay in general, since you can build so many different variations with these characters. But take one quick glance at some of the Geo usage statistics, and you will notice only Zhongli comes out at the top of these results. And it's no secret that Geo had its fair share of problems back when Genshin first launched, and while miHoYo did address these problems by giving a buff to the resonance bonus, there's still only 5 characters from this element, and 2 of them are limited 5 stars. Now, to be fair, Geo is considered to be a support element, and there's not many Geo-centric teams in the game, but you could basically say the same thing for Anemo, Electro, and even Hydro. However, one key difference here would be that these elements actually cause offensive reactions, which is something that basically anyone playing the game will find appealing, while good old Geo is only there to drop some crystals on the ground. And if we look even further into Anemo, an element that often gets compared to Geo, it plays an important role in team builds thanks to Verdes and Venrir artifact set, which enables a plethora of different team variations, while characters like Kazuha and Sucrose specialize in boosting either elemental damage or mastery. Also, let's not forget the fact back in 1.6, Anemo got a pretty huge buff for swirl damage, so it made the characters even stronger from this element. So where am I getting at? Well, since we have to assume Itto and Gorou are coming in the next update, these considerations and to some extent issues will get scrutinized once they come out, and probably the biggest topic is going to be Geo team builds. Because, let's be honest here, at this point, there's only a handful of extremely premium team comps you can run that have a good synergy. Teams like Xiao Geo or Double Pyro Geo with Ningguang, and to some extent, there are even players still running Battery Noel out there in the wild. But not everyone has Xiao unlocked, and you cannot assume people have built other Geo teammates, so if you're saving up Primo Gems for the 2 upcoming characters, or considering to give this element a go at some point in the future, then it's probably for the best to at least think it over. In fact, this next part is all about understanding the reality of using Geo. When it comes to team building, you could probably live without any of the resonance bonuses, since we usually place emphasis on the character synergy instead of trying to create a comp that gets those extra benefits. However, in Geo's case, increasing your damage by 15% and shredding enemies' Geo resistance by 20% is no joke, and ignoring these kinds of bonuses means you're missing out on a good chunk of damage. But the problem with this resonance is that you only get these benefits while the character is shielded, so if you take that away at any time during combat, you're essentially playing as if you have no resonance at all. And what's funny about all of this is that those who have Zhongli probably haven't considered this as a problem in a long time, since his shield is truly on a godlike level. But what happens if you don't have him or decide to build a Geo team without him? You probably won't be able to rely on crystallized reactions, since the only 2 things that produce shield scale off is the active character's level and their elemental mastery, which you can already tell is not a stat that any of the Geo characters want to be built with. So this would leave you with a task of finding the next alternative to Zhongli. And coincidentally, we did get a first look at Thoma in the previous video, and something that's quite clear about him is that his shield, while not extremely durable, makes up for it with consistency and very reliable uptime. It's actually quite possible miHoYo developed him for the sake of using in Geo-centric team, even if the initial analysis has shown him to be a good duo partner for Hu Tao. But with all things considered, if you're going to pull for him or the Funeral Director, he might prove to be useful useful with future Geo teams, especially if you do not have Zhongli. Obviously, there's other options like Diona, Xinyan, and Noelle, but that's a topic for the next time. Point is, if it turns out that Gorou and Itto do not have a way to shield themselves with their talents, and you want to make a team with them, that Geo resonance is going to be crucial, and without Zhongli in the picture, you'll probably want to think about a shield character you want to use and take advantage of that bonus. It's kind of tragic if you think about it. Back in the early days, Albedo's fate as a once featured 5-star character got overshadowed by Zhongli's 1.1 controversy and community's mistrust with Geo Element, but as time went on, more and more players would start to recognize his potential, not just as your regular run-of-the-mill quick-swap damage dealer, but also the fact building him is quite free-to-play friendly. All he really needs besides leveling up him and his talents are some defense artifacts and a fully refined Harbinger of Dawn, which you'll obtain more than a few copies of as you keep playing the game. Now, to be fair, one of the valid criticisms you'll hear about him is that his skill and burst scale off different stats, which means going for a hybrid build isn't the most comfortable idea for some people. Not to mention, even if you wanted to go for a defense build, there aren't any 5-star artifacts that provide this stat as their bonus, and you're only left with Defender's Will, which is only recommended for flower and feather slots. Still, that doesn't prevent him from dealing pretty consistent damage, because what you only really need to do is just drop a flower and then activate his burst for those spectacular Geo explosions. So the big question is, how well will he work together with future Geo teams once the two new characters arrive? Well, in all honesty, it doesn't matter that much when evaluating him individually, since you can use Albedo as a flexible unit, and the only reason this gets addressed is that he has been popping up in recent conversations from time to time, now that we know Gorou and Itto are coming. However, if Mono Geo becomes a serious thing in a future update, then you can bet your top Primo Gem this guy is going to end up as a huge priority thanks to minimal field time he requires, and more importantly, the Geo energy he will be able to create. He obviously struggles with the same problem as Zhongli, where the constructs they deploy randomly create energy, but it has been proven that Albedo's energy generation is more consistent when compared to the Geo Archon. Also, it rarely gets talked about it, but Tenacity of Millilith is a viable force that you can use on him in exchange for losing out on some damage and providing the team with a consistent attack and shield strength buff, which is a sweet deal to say the least. Basically, not only is Albedo well-rounded as a flexible option for many different team comps, but he is also going to be useful in Mono Geo teams, and if by any chance there are going to be mechanics that allow to increase defense in future updates, then you can expect his flower to deal even more damage than before. Now, if only we knew when his rerun is going to get announced. Look, it's no secret that without one extremely popular character who enjoys the occasional osmanthus wine, this element doesn't get to see much action. So it's great to see that MiHoYo is taking a huge step forward by putting out Itto and Gorou at the same time, but these considerations that have been brought up in the video exist for a reason. The usage data speaks for itself when we look at Geo, because it's only Albedo and Zhongli that come out at the top, while Noelle, Ningguang, and the Traveler remain as significantly less popular options. So even if in the past it was said that Hydro felt like a premium element, it is in fact Geo that deserves this title, since you can see just how many teams desire to have Xingqiu in them, while Child has been getting constant reruns and ending up as a top performer with Xiangling, and by now it's already clear that Mona is quite the favorite in Morgana team variations. But even if there isn't a lot of synergy going on with this element, one last thing worth mentioning would be how easy it is to balance this element. We've already seen how Zhongli and Geo shields got buffed in 1.3 update, and it's clear as a day that Crystallized by itself is a completely innocent and often ignored reaction, so if you beef up the characters themselves, there won't be any serious implications. So when these two new guys are rolled out, the first thing you need to find out is just how strong are their damage multipliers, unless of course they end up as support units, then it's a different topic. However, it should be obvious by now that Geo is going to be pushed as the next go-to element in a future update, and from a marketing perspective, it's easier to sell to people a damage dealer than a support. Just make sure you're not confusing us in some of those cool looking trailers. It's honestly kind of terrifying and exciting at the same time to see what will happen with Geo in the nearest future, because while it does feel like a premium element at this point, the potential to see some niche teams or even an entirely new category of comps could be the thing that Genshin needs right now to shake up the meta. And it's not even the Spiral Abyss meta I'm talking about, but just general team building concepts we've been following for the past year. Think about Eula and Kazuha, who not only felt like self-contained powerhouses, but also gave birth to some of the new teams. games. And with Geo having some unique selling points like structures, association with defense, and zero offensive reactions, there's gotta be a way MiHoYo delivers something interesting in the nearest future. Hopefully you got the basic gist of what to expect and consider for when Geo becomes a huge topic in the coming weeks, and if you liked the video, be sure to subscribe to the channel and gently press the like button. Thanks for watching and see you soon.